Hey everybody, it's Rem, and it is time for another wine tasting. Now today's is going to be a little bit different in that I'm going to I solicited requests and said, is there anything in particular you'd like to know about? And my good friend Rod Hankey from Palm Springs, California, and Minneapolis, Minnesota, not necessarily in that order, but soon to be, said, I would really like to know more about how people talk about wine and descriptors and all the rest of that stuff. Just what's that all about? So that's what I'm going to try to address today. And, just let's get this out of the way. There are people that are watching this wine tastings that I do that know a lot more about wine than I do. I'm just a guy that's read a lot of books and tasted so much wine that I have a little bit of a sense for what I personally like. So we're going to talk about that. And just so if you're wondering, this is a cab. I'll show you what it is that I will taste today. And this is Raymond. So now Raymond is a great Napa Valley vineyard that is right there on the valley floor. Though if you'll notice, this wine, the grapes are grown on Atlas Peak, which is up in the mountains that surround Napa Valley. And mountain fruit's always really a lot different than the fruit down on the floor. Neither one's better, they're just different. And so we're going to try some of that today as we go ahead and taste. But I mentioned I've read a lot of books. So I want to share with you the best book on wine I've ever read in my life. It's by the great wine writer Hugh Johnson, and it's called A Life Uncorked. It is, in fact, his, it's an autobiography in a way. And, I love the way he's organized the book, and I want to share that with you as well. So it's broken up into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sections. The first one's called Prospects. The second one is called Bubbly. Third is White. Fourth is Red. Fifth is Sweet. He takes you through a trip through his 50 years of writing about wine. He does the wine encyclopedia, his wine atlas. I mean, he's an incredible writer. And I have to tell you, I am now, just because Rod got me thinking about this, I'm starting to read this book again. This will be probably my 8th time that I've read this book. It's an incredible book about the world, but using wine as the construct that pulls it all together. His story, the man writes, you can read a paragraph and you can't even, who writes like this is what I always think. It's just so well done. And if you want to get a real sense for wine, there's not a list in here. There's not any of that information like that at all. It's simply all about wine. But he talks about, okay, so how do people talk about wine? And this is where people always get kind of tripped up because, when you start saying, I get cherry, I get whatever it is you want to say about a glass of wine. And I've noticed this for, really intelligent, accomplished people, all of a sudden are like, I don't know. I mean, it's some kind of weird thing about this grape juice that gets everybody all freaked out. And so, it's really hard. I haven't tried this yet. It's really hard to have this sitting here and not do anything with it. So let's give it a snifferoo. Okay, I mean, this is not the first of these bottles I've had. We picked this up from Vivino. I'm going to tell you about Vivino in a minute. And this is a $90 bottle of wine, which we got for a lot less than that. And Vivino gives you incredible deals. So I'll mention what Vivino is again in just a moment because I want to give you some pointers about this. But how do you talk about wine? So Hugh writes about, let's taste it. I'm going to read in a minute what someone else has written about this particular wine. But I want to give you some thoughts about the way you can talk about or think about wine. So first of all, there's the 100-point system that was developed by Robert Parker, who was a lawyer from Baltimore. It's been doing it forever and just developed an unbelievable amount of influence in the wine world. If Robert Parker gives it a 90 or higher, and this is based on the U.S. grading system of, 100 points, a 95 and 80. If you've gone to school in the U.S., you understand the grading system. And that's what it is. And then Wine Spectator, the magazine, picked that up so many years ago, and that's what they use for all of their rankings. I do, from time to time, subscribe to Wine Spectator. Not all the time, and then I get a little bored, then I pick it up later. It's great. I read it for the articles. Okay, I read Wine Spectator for the articles, but I don't read it for the points. I pay no attention to that. I mean, what's the difference between a 90 and a 91 or 94 or 90? I mean, who even thinks this stuff up? It doesn't make any sense to me. Though a lot of people will look at that and say, okay, well, that's great. What Hugh Johnson says, he's always looked at, the ways that people might talk about wine. Now, basically what he says is wine tastes like wine. You don't have to eat very many apples to know what an apple tastes like. You don't have to eat very many black currants to know what black currants taste like. Wine tastes like wine. A Riesling tastes like a Riesling. A Chardonnay tastes like a Chardonnay, though there's lots of ways to do Chardonnay, of course. Cabernet Sauvignon tastes like a Cabernet Sauvignon. So why do we use these words? Well, because A, it's fun. It's just fun, and it gives you some information, and it imparts some information. And I got a couple I want to read to you so I'm going to read. So here's somebody describing, this came through on my Vivino app. This is a Chardonnay, undeniably delicious, curvy and voluptuous. Finest French oak vanilla, superb in every way. That's a Bloomin' Brandel Chardonnay, 2017 Sonoma. So Hugh talks about how a lot of wine writers will use descriptors that are sort of anthropomorphic, elegant, beautiful, feminine, voluptuous, curvy, those kinds of words to give you a sense for it, whether it's like a bold, strong one or more elegant and refined, which would be more towards a feminine than a masculine. And people do that. Let's see. There's some more from Vivino I want to share with you. So this is a Corte Medicea, which is Italian, and it says, a fabulous blend of Sangiovese and Cabernet that make beautiful music together, supple and absolutely delicious. This is a wine you can simply sit back, relax, and drink to your heart's content. Now, here's one for a Louis Martini, 2017 Cab. You can pick these up anywhere. It's comprised of 83% Cabernet Sauvignon, 11% Petit Syrah, and sourced from Martini's premium sites in Napa, such as, and it mentions the vineyards. A richly textured wine with gorgeous red currant, blueberries, and black cherry liquor notes, supported by finely grained tannins and wonderful baking spice finish. Okay, so here's the thing. I don't even know what that means. Baking spice finish. I mean, okay, I'm willing to see what that's all about, but somebody maybe knows what baking spice finish is. But, so they're just trying to tell you something. But what Diane and I learned were a couple of things that I'll share with you. Cheers. Okay, the first one is, we were at a wine tasting in Paris at a place called Au Chateau. If you ever go to Paris, go to Au Chateau. They've got English-speaking wine tastings. It's the best thing we ever went to. And we took Annie with us. We were over there in Paris with her, and she was studying abroad. And basically what they say is, pick some wines that you like. Just know that you like this wine. And one of the things that happened to us that day was we were introduced by Olivier, the fabulous guy that owns Au Chateau. And he shared with us after the tasting a Chinon, which we'd never heard of, had no idea what it was. Well, it's a Cabernet Franc, typically from the Loire Valley. And so Cab Franc, right? Okay, but it's Chinon. And so now if we're out at a restaurant, I can tell the sommelier, and they're fun to talk to. They're not there to make you pay more money. They're there to help you find a good wine. I always can say, I want to look at this price range. You know what? A lot of times they'll do is they're like, oh, really? I got one bottle left of this that's not even on the wine list. And then we've had some real gems just occur because we were, talking to the sommelier or, the waiter. That person knows about their stocks, and they're again, just fun to talk to, and they can help you. But if I happen to like this wine, they can say, oh, okay. Then they can kind of guide you to something like that. So that's one way you develop a little bit of your own markers for the wines that you particularly have enjoyed. Keep a little list, put it on your notes on your phone. Speaking of your phone, there's one other thing I want to share with you, and it's an app called Vivino. Let's see, I'll go back to the app part. So, okay, it's on my phone, it's the little grape thing right there, Vivino, V-I-V-N-O. And all you have to do, click on Vivino. And now, by the way, I may be not doing you a favor because they'll send you emails every day, which I look forward to and have ever since I've gotten this app with deals on incredible wines, which is, I think, where we picked up the Raymond from. And but here's the thing about Vivino. So this Raymond, you can see it's rated 4.5. This is out of 5. Now remember, I was just talking about how much I don't like scores, but I like Vivino's scores, and I'll tell you why. It's crowdsourced by normal people, not people tasting, 100 Syrahs today and trying to rank them all and then write about it. Just people like you and me. And in this particular case, if you'll notice, there's 112 people that have ranked this wine and they gave it a 4.5 out of 5. So it's kind of that 5-star review process that we're all really used to. Diane and I swear by this. And the cool thing is, the app, you can take a photograph of practically any label of any wine that there is, and it'll instantly bring it back. If you're at the store, you can just see, what do other people think about this wine? So here's our rule: 3.8 or higher. If it's lower than 3.8 on the Vivino score, that's so good, because we've tested that, and people know what they're talking about. So those are a couple ways to give you a little sense for all of that. Now, the one thing I wanted to share at the end here for Rod, this is for you, words and things that people use. So I went and looked at a Bordeaux because, Bordeaux's are more acidic. They're less, as people say, fruit forward. And I wanted to know how a Bordeaux would be described. So this one's a 2015 Castillon Côte de Bordeaux 2015. And they write in, I think it's in the Vivino, it is in the Vivino app. What does this wine taste like? From light to bold, it's mostly bold. From smooth to tannic, it's mostly tannic. That's that little bitterness that will eventually go away as it ages. From dry to sweet, mostly dry. And from soft to acidic, it's closer to acidic, which you would expect for French wines, because they are much more designed to be eaten with, or to be drunk with food, paired with food. They're far more acidic, and you'll often get different ways of describing French wines. French wines are, so they're not fruit forward like Italy or most of our New World wines. And the flavors now, this is also in the listing that people mention the most. Imparted from the barrel in the process, they talk about oak. So people use these words numerous times, and Vivino will tell you how many times they use the word oak, which of course talks about the barrel. Vanilla, tobacco, that's really describing the winemaker process and the process the winemaker uses that imparts those kinds of flavors. The description of the fruit was blackberry, plum, black currants, and then from the acidity, leather, earthy, mushroom. I always think like barnyard or forest floor. That's very much what you would think about with French wines. And so this Raymond, one of the people that wrote about it, I thought did a nice job. This guy named Brad Williams, Senior. And he wrote, it's deep crimson in color, blackberry, dark plum, tobacco, and black currant nose. Wonderful flavors of black cherry, blackberry, and an incredibly high oaky tannins, which I don't experience. I don't think they're incredibly high oaky tannins. So I don't happen to agree with, oh, no, that was a guy named Dennis. Yeah. So sorry about that. This is a guy named Dennis. No, that's Brad. Never mind. And so, you can do this yourself. But blackberry, dark currant. See, and again, this is a real smooth, I think, really refined wine. I just don't see why that would be very high oak and tannins. It's a 20, what was it? A 2015. Okay, so long and involved. However, a response to my fan, Rod Henke. Hey, Rod, here's to your health. Jim, you guys, cheers. I'll see you soon. You got to get out to Vegas. To your health.